This right here is why you change your fluids after the first 50 hours. Hey there, hobby homesteaders. Welcome back to Peak's Peak. My name's Lucas. We're sharing our hobbies here on 38 acres in eastern Kentucky, and today is the day for our 50-hour service on the TYM 4820. It's been an awesome 50 hours. I've loved everything about it. This is a fantastic machine. If you watch my videos, you've seen a couple of videos of me bragging about all the things that this thing will do. And at 50 hours, they advise that you change the oil and filter, the transmission fluid and filter, or the hydraulic fluid. And your hydraulic system has 2 filters on it. So we'll change both of those filters, the hydraulic fluid, the oil and the oil filter, and then we will drain the front axle and we'll put new 80W90 gear oil in the front end. And the reason for that is because in the first 50 hours, you've got all of those mechanical components and gears and everything that are wearing until they fit together. And so that means little metal shavings and things like that can be in the system right now because it's all breaking in. Well, after that first 50 hours, it's all mated up and everything's ready to go. So we want to get all of those contaminants out of the system. So we change the filters, we put fresh fluids in, and everything should be good to go for a long life of service. I'm going to change the oil first because that's pretty simple. All we need to change the oil is a 17mm wrench and possibly a filter wrench to get that sucker off. And we'll get her drained out. We've got some 15W40 oil we're gonna put back in it, then we'll move on to the next step. Oh, that sucker's tight. Before I oil the seal on this, I always write my hours. We are at 50 hours. Caden would write 50.5 hours because he has to be exact. And today's date is 2/27/25. Now, you're going to need about 5 quarts of oil. You might notice that I am not using a TYM branded filter. That's not because I am against them. It's simply because my son works for Advance Auto Parts and he can get good deals on deal days, and I have a business account there. So when I buy Rotella by the case, you buy a certain quantity, you get discounts. And so I have lots of folks that I like to support, my son being near the top of that list. So that's why I buy from him. But TYM dealers carry TYM branded oil and filters, and so you can check with your dealer and get the right filters, and they'll take care of you as well. I always just take a little bit of fresh oil and put in the cap so that I can oil the seal, and then just throw the cap back on. All right, so I've got a question for you guys, because every time I show an oil change on my channel, I will have folks, critique things that I do And I've got my methods and I've got my reason for my methods. And it is what it is. If I can learn something, great. But sometimes you just always going to have critique. Anytime I install a horizontal oil filter, I do not pre-fill it because some of it is going to be spilling out while you're putting it on. And I always have somebody say, you can still pre-fill those oil filters, you won't spill that much and that sort of thing. So what do you guys do? An engine has to build oil pressure anyway, and it takes just a split second. There's oil on all of the parts. With today's oils, I think that everything's got oil on it anyway, from it running through the system down to where it needs to be. So I'm not overly concerned about that. But comment and let me know, do you pre-fill every oil filter when you put it on? Now on a 5-quart system or near 5-quart system, I always will put a gallon in, fire it up and run it for a couple of seconds until I know we've got oil pressure, which means that the filter is full, and then I will put the rest of the oil in. So we'll go ahead and check it real quick and see if it's showing any on the dipstick. And we need about a 1/2 quart, which was what I expected. Right on the money. There you go. Perfect. Real quick, one thing that I noticed is when I first took this oil cap off, the O-ring stayed on the housing there, and I filled oil through the O-ring. Just make sure you don't lose that when you take this cap off. Okay, so the oil's done. Now let's get to the hydraulic system. We've got 2 filters, and then there's a little bit of a discrepancy because the TYM video says that there are 11 gallons of hydraulic fluid, and the manual, which is a few years old, says that it has 10 gallons. So I'm not sure what the capacity is. We'll just have to find out. My guess is because the hydraulic system also has fluid here, there, and everywhere, although we've got our cylinders pretty well pulled in, there's going to be fluid in the hoses and everything else, and that will add up. So I'm guessing that probably 10 gallons will be about all we need for this. All right, guys, I've got 2 5-gallon buckets up here that I should be able to maneuver in order to keep from making a total mess. And this is our plug on the transmission. And while it said that I needed a 17 millimeter online, it is quite clear that it is covered in paint. I was about to say that it's not, but it is. Sounds like Janice, huh? Let's get the paint cleaned off of it. So if you take a socket and drive it over the paint, get a good bite. And then get it cracked loose. So at least for this first oil change, hydraulic fluid change, it's good to go ahead and use the socket. I don't know how much pressure will be under this, so it's shooting out about 6 inches or so. Now, we've got to stay engaged with this. We've got to swap buckets when it's time. Okay, we are about 2 inches from the top, which is about my comfort level of how I'm going to slosh this everywhere, so. All right, while this is draining, I'm going to slide out and grab my filter wrench, and I can go ahead and crack this loose because I think I can do double duty here and get the bucket under both of those. Tell you what, that camera picked me up these filter wrenches because I didn't have any big enough for these filters, and that's pretty handy. Pretty handy. It's It is nice that there's enough clearance for a 5-gallon bucket. CarQuest filters are made by Baldwin. So a CarQuest 85202 is the same as a Baldwin filter. So that's what we're using here. Okay. It is still draining, but I wanted to show you something because my old filter, you know, a lot of people comment with that Bombalite brush mulcher, I'm going to tear up something underneath my tractor. And I try to be transparent about whatever I'm doing, just so you guys know how these things are working. Well, there's the end of my hydraulic filter, and it's got a dent on the bottom. Now, I don't know when that happened, but it's almost 100% guaranteed that it happened when I was mulching and something went up under there and mashed the end of it. It didn't puncture it, so I didn't lose fluid, but guaranteed, if I don't get some protection underneath this tractor, that's what's gonna happen. We're at least going to hit a filter, blow a hole in it, and lose a lot of money's worth of fluid. So I'm gonna be looking into some ways to protect the things that are under that tractor. Y'all hear that beating and banging out there? I'm gonna go show you guys what it is, because I gave Caden a job. So we've got an old cistern that is contaminated and full of dirt and everything else. And we're about to have some grandbabies here soon, and I don't want any chances of anything dangerous going on out here. So I hired Caden to open up the cistern so I can completely fill it up and dispose of it. And he's been out here swinging a sledgehammer and busting away, and he's doing a fine job of it. He's 10 years old. And I'm gonna tell you, I busted on it for a while, and I think he may be outdoing me on it. Pay no attention to the mess back here because the yard is a mess and all tore up. We had some storm damage. Snow tore the gutters off the back of the house. And then we come back here to clean that up, but we also had all these rocks from the hillside roll down. We had to clean those up, so I've had the tractor back here and we've left big ruts, and it's a total disaster. Old Brad at Piney Grove would be so ashamed of me. What are you gonna do? Okay, well, it's still running a little bit. All right. Well, that drain plug's magnetic, I like it. I did not see any contaminants on it, so that's good. All right, now let's get this last filter. There we go. Got her dried off. Now she's coming loose. I'll tell you what, a strap wrench is the way to go. I'd have struggled with these. This one is a CarQuest 84252. Tight enough. Oh, look at that, son. We're gonna have to put up crime tape until we get this done.
Oh yeah, I lost the safety goggles down there.
Of course you did. I've been fighting him about wearing the safety glasses the whole time he's been doing this. And they keep fogging up on him, and he tells me he just lost them down in there. So I'm gonna have to go find him another pair. Now, I told you guys about getting deals through Advance Auto Parts with my son, and they were able to order me 5-gallon buckets of the same thing as the Delvac hydraulic fluid. It's the Mobile 424. So that's what we're gonna be running in this. You can hear on the roof the reason why I'm doing this tonight, because the rain's coming. But I put almost all 10 gallons in this. In fact, there might be a quart and a half, 2 quarts left, and then I'll show you the fill line. Started it, ran it, and then let it settle, and we're just below that red dot. So it's going to end up being right at 10 gallons that it holds. Another reason why I use Cameron in advance is because I can send my used oil back with him. And I would say that this oil definitely has a metallic sheen to it. I don't know if you can see that or not. Now my bucket was a little dirty, so you're gonna see some dirt in there, but all right, well, if you can hear me over the rain now, we are done. We got the transmission all filled up, topped off, looking good, and now we are ready to change the front axle fluid. So we've got a 5-gallon bucket of 80-90 gear oil, and we'll need a 17 millimeter for the drain plug and a 27 millimeter or 1 1/16 for the fill caps. Have to get the top cracked open there. I'm trying to make a mess there. There we go. Now you got a dipstick in there. We'll just leave that sitting there. Let that drain. I may go ahead, because I'm a little short on time, I'm gonna grab something else to drain into the other side and get it started. Now I'll make note of one other thing, and that is on this side, the fill cap is not a dipstick tube. It's just a vent cap. Now when I fill this up, I'm gonna put a couple of quarts in this side over here, and then fill it from the other side until the dipstick is where it needs to be. The hardest part of doing a 50-hour service on one of these things is letting that 80-90 gear oil drain out. It's you know, thick and slow. It's almost there, almost there. Oh yeah. So we actually are clean as a whistle, and it's got an inner filter. Now I've got the loader in the way, so I'm not gonna go ahead and pull it all the way out, but you can see 50 hours, man. It's been winter time, so mostly clean working. I'm pretty happy with that. Looks pretty good. All right, let's snug it up. Make sure you got your washer back on your drain nut, drain plug there. All right, we're just gonna put just a little bit on this side. Slow moving. Put your little vent back on here. Snug it up. All right, so we got the axle filled up and we got her topped off, tightened down the caps, and that's all there is to it, man. The service is done. Now, I wanted to be able to pull it out of here and kind of clean up my mess, and then, you know, be able to check for leaks and all that, but it's pouring rain and I've got somewhere to be. So I'm going to leave her sit for right now, let everything drain and settle. I'll come back and I'll check my fluids again and make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. This was a really easy job, really taking my time and videoing, 2.5 hours maybe. But I always like to do my own service because it makes you familiar with your machine, and it kind of helps you learn things to watch out for and how everything works. Just like the hydraulic filter that was dented underneath. I know that's a real concern now. I also know that if I lose hydraulic power while I'm out there mulching, well, that's probably why, and that's the first place to look. As I was gathering up the old fluids for disposal, I noticed you could really see the metallic flake in this gear loop. This is why we changed the fluids after the first 50 hours, because all of that metal floating around in there is just going to wear on the parts. So we give the machine the first 50 hours for all the parts to kind of get to know each other and get meshed together. So once we're broke in, we drain all these contaminants out, replace it with clean fluids, and the next time you'll notice a big difference when you change your oil. So guys, I hope you enjoyed coming along with me on my 50-hour service for my TYM 4820. And until next time, you get outside and enjoy God's creation because it's beautiful out there. Maybe wait till it quits raining. Y'all have a good day.